The English media has become notorious for overhyping English players, and with outrageous transfer fees in an inflated market, fans are usually left disappointed when expectation doesn't meet reality. These are 10 English footballers who were extremely overhyped. Having broken into Manchester City's youth first team in 2005 at the age of 17 and becoming the youngest defender to be called up to the England squad, expectations were extremely high for Micah Richards. He was an exciting fullback, but despite making over 200 appearances for Manchester City over the course of a decade, he never really lived up to the billing. Richards made only 13 caps for the Three Lions, but injuries and inconsistent form prevented him from fully becoming a world-class player. Richards had a loan spell with Fiorentina and joined Aston Villa after turning down a £100,000 per week contract with Manchester City. It would end up being the worst decision he made because Villa got relegated and he had his wages slashed. Richards ended up retiring at 31 after only a handful of appearances with Villa, but perhaps this case isn't as bad as Jack Rodwell. Rodwell emerged through the Everton youth team as a physically tough and athletic player who was comfortable both in defense and midfield. He became an important part of Everton's first team for 5 years before making an ill-advised move to Manchester City for £15 million, which was a huge transfer fee back in 2012. But Rodwell just couldn't get going in Man City, making only 16 appearances for City in 2 years, after which he was sold to Sunderland, where he infamously went 39 games without winning. After 4 unhappy years at Sunderland, Rodwell had stints with Blackburn and Sheffield in an attempt to revive his career before leaving England for Australia. Rodwell's career was blighted by injuries, bad decisions, and bad attitude at times. He now plays for Sydney FC in the Australian A-League. We can only wish the 32-year-old good luck for the remainder of his career. Next up, we have Danny Drinkwater, who came through the youth ranks of Manchester United. After a series of loan spells, Drinkwater joined Leicester City in 2012 and became a stalwart for the club for being a combative presence in the midfield as they gained promotion to the top flight and eventually won the league in 2016. So it wasn't surprising to see Chelsea willing to cough up £35 million for his signature the following year, but unfortunately, it proved to be one of the worst transfer decisions for the Blues. Drinkwater made only 23 appearances in almost 5 years for the club. With a lot of competition in Chelsea's midfield, Drinkwater found his chances few and far between and ended up settling for loan spells at Burnley, Aston Villa, Kasımpaşa, and Reading. Now at 33, the forgotten player is now a free agent. Talking about forgotten players, we might as well mention Ravel Morrison. Ravel started his career in 2010 at Sir Alex Ferguson's Manchester United, having emerged from the club's academy. It was he who ran the show in the midfield alongside Jesse Lingard and Paul Pogba during Manchester United's Youth Cup win of 2011. His manager regarded him to have better prospects than Paul Pogba at the time, and some pundits even regarded him as the next Paul Gascoigne or Wayne Rooney, yet he flattered to deceive due to self-sabotage. Always getting into trouble, even a private session with Ferguson couldn't change Ravel Morrison, who ended up leaving the Red Devils for West Ham without making any appearances for their senior side. Fast, tricky, and with all the talent in the world, but not able to overcome his difficult background and ADHD diagnosis, Morrison ended up becoming a journeyman, playing for clubs in Italy, Mexico, Sweden, and England. Overall, he has played for 13 different sides. 30-year-old Morrison currently plays for MLS side DC United, and his story is a reminder that hard work always trumps talent. But it's a little different with Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain. Jack of all trades, but master of none. Oxlade-Chamberlain rose to prominence with Southampton, after which he signed for Arsenal at 17. At Arsenal, he became the youngest English goalscorer in UEFA Champions League history, and was a permanent fixture in the England under-21 team. Over the next 6 years, he would win 3 FA Cups with the Gunners, playing almost 200 games, but he never really shone consistently. His versatility became his undoing as he was used in different positions. Great at driving forward, taking on defenders, and scoring occasional screamers. Oxlade-Chamberlain's error-prone nature and injuries blighted his career. His growth stalled at Liverpool, where he found it difficult to break into the first 11. The 29-year-old is set to leave Liverpool for free as his contract is run out. Luckily, the former Gunners man, time is still on his side. Well, who do we have next? Francis Jeffers. The former forward scored just 24 minutes into his England debut, but that was his only appearance for England's senior team. Jeffers was one of the brightest young talents in English football during the late 90s and early 2000s. Sharp in front of goal, 20-year-old Jeffers signed for Arsenal in June 2001 for £8 million. However, he had a few chances due to injuries and the untouchable duo of Thierry Henry and Sylvain Wiltord. The former player also admitted that his attitude at the lack of opportunities wasn't perfect. He loved to party and live large while not being disciplined at training. Jeffers returned to Everton after 2 years with the Gunners and became a journeyman afterward, playing for almost a dozen clubs in England, Scotland, Australia, and Malta. He retired in 2013 at 32 after a series of failed trials with non-league clubs as a free agent. It was that bad for Jeffers, but not quite so for Joe Hart. You might think it's quite tough to call someone who has 2 Premier League titles and 4 EPL Golden Glove awards overrated until you look at the bigger picture. Joe Hart was Manchester City's #1 and England's #1, but that was majorly because he was covered by a world-class defense. When he was forced out of City, his shortcomings were exposed. Multiple errors in judgments and awareness, inability to distribute the ball, even his shot stopping was sometimes funny for a supposedly world-class goalkeeper. After 12 years at City and 75 caps for England, Hart went on loan spells at Tranmere Rovers, Blackpool, Birmingham City, Torino, and West Ham before having a brief spell at Burnley. Hart currently plays for Celtic in the Scottish Premier League. David Bentley. Unlike many other footballers who struggle with failed trials and rejections early on in their careers, Bentley had a smooth journey to the top, or close to it. He joined Arsenal as a 13-year-old and was already training with the senior team at 16. However, breaking into the first team was a problem because Arsenal had arguably their best squad ever in the history of the club, with Thierry Henry, Dennis Bergkamp, and the rest running things. Bentley just couldn't find his way into the team for all of his talent. By 2006, he was out of the club to Blackburn Rovers, where his career had a revival as he scored 13 goals in 88 appearances as a right winger over 2 years. He was named the next David Beckham, but everything came crashing down at Tottenham when he signed a 6-year contract for £15 million. Bentley suffered a permanent loss of form and ended up retiring at 29 after falling out of love with the game. A gambling addiction, a lack of discipline, injuries, and issues with the spotlight ultimately contributed to Bentley's fall from grace. But we ain't quite sure where the problem is for Callum Hudson-Odoi. As one of the brightest prospects in English football, the 22-year-old was tied down to a huge contract by Chelsea just to fend off interest from German outfit Bayern Munich. For Hudson-Odoi, it is clear that he has the potential to become a world-class winger who can play on both wings and as a right back. But for a player whom Bayern were willing to pay up to £40 million for a few years back, he is still yet to sparkle. Now on loan at Bayer Leverkusen, Hudson-Odoi has plenty of time to prove that he isn't overrated. Do you remember any young player who often gave the ball away, crossed into the stands, ran with the ball out of play, had a poor first touch and shot off target? Well, Theo Walcott is one of the footballers that comes to mind. But between those frustrating spells of mediocrity was an exciting footballer. Walcott emerged from Southampton and joined Arsenal as a 17-year-old and spent 12 years with the Gunners, making over 270 appearances and scoring 65 goals. Having fallen down the pecking order in an evolving Arsenal team, Walcott moved to Everton and later his boyhood club Southampton, where he continues to play at 34. Known for his rapid pace, even Pep Guardiola said that you need a pistol to stop Walcott, but that was it. Walcott is a good and potentially dangerous player, but not a world-class player like he was hyped by the media.